Hi, I'm Curtis Knight. Thank you for watching. What does it mean when you are asked to cover the appraisal gap? This is something that only started to happen very recently, like maybe 5 years ago-ish. 10 years ago, never heard of it. So covering the appraisal gap means this. You are a buyer and you're looking to purchase a home, and you have your buyer real estate agent, and together both of you fill out the contract to purchase real estate, which is also known as the offer. Same thing, contract to purchase real estate, offer. All right, got that offer ready? So you fill out your offer and you send it over to the seller and you say, this property, do the one that I just, I'll do the numbers that we just used. The property was on the market for $649,900, $649,900, so the equivalent of $650,000 basically. So the offer came in for $710,000. So the owner of the property said to me, I was representing the seller, the owner of the property, and she said, seems like a good deal. I said, I'm going to ask them if they are willing to cover any portion of the appraisal gap, if there is one. So what that means is when you use a lender to purchase your property, you're not paying cash for the property. The lender wants to make sure, first of all, if I'm going to loan you $710,000 to buy a house, number one, I want to know if there's actually a house there. Up until about 40 years ago, a lot of times they'd do the whole transaction and there was no house. They'd write up the contract, everybody would sign it, and this is $800,000 for this beautiful house. It didn't exist. There was just a landfill or a vacant lot sitting there, and all this fraud was going on consistently. So lenders began to put in provisions so they wouldn't get beat up so many times. So they put in the appraisal. I'm just going to make sure that number one, there is a house on that property at that address, and number two, it's worth $710,000 if this person who I'm about to give a loan to, if you default on your loan, if you miss whatever they say, 3 payments, we can take your house from you and you have to move out. And if you don't move out, we send the sheriff's department and they move you out, and you ain't going to be able to stay there. You're going to have to go. So to make sure that that house is worth $710,000, the appraiser sent by the bank will take about 20 minutes, go through the house, if there are 3 floors, which there are in this particular property, go through all 3 floors and then walk around the house, measure it, and then make a bunch of notes. This has 3 bedrooms and 1 bonus room downstairs, and this many square feet, and the lot is flat. And they make a bunch of notes and they submit it to the lender, and they say, this property is worth $680,000, not $710,000. So now we're in trouble because the lender is only willing to do a loan based on $680,000, not $710,000. So when this first started to happen about 5 years ago, or it had happened before, but it started to happen all the time 5 years ago. When it first started to happen 5 years ago, the buyer agent would call the seller agent and say, we have ourselves a little bit of a situation. We offered $710,000 for the property and you accepted it. And now the appraisal just came back and it is $680,000. So we need you to lower the price from the $710,000 that we offered down to $680,000, and then we'll stay in the deal. If you're not able or not willing to do that, then we're going to pull out. So then there'd be a lot of back and forth, and some way or another, an agreement would be reached, and there was a lot of haggling. So after that happened for a few years, one agent figured it out and presented a particular set of verbiage in the comments section of the contract and said, if the appraisal does not come in at the amount that the buyer offered, in this case that I'm talking about, $710,000, if the appraisal is lower than the agreed to sale amount, the buyer will bring the difference in a bank certified check made payable to the seller. So that would mean this house, we're in the middle of it right now, was $710,000. It was on the market for $650,000. The buyers offered $710,000. Now, in this particular case, we just got the call from the buyer agent, and she said the bank has waived the appraisal. And that is, they think the house is in such good shape and it's so valuable that even if they were to do the loan at $710,000 and then the buyers defaulted, they can get that $710,000 back. They're not worried about it. So they're not going to even put an appraisal amount on it. They're just going to say 710 is fine. It appraised for 710, even though we didn't send our appraiser out. Pretty cool. So sometimes the appraisal will be waived. Good Lord. It'll be waived, but usually the appraisal, in a majority of cases, the appraisal comes in at whatever the offered price was. It took me a while to wrap my head around this. Back 5 years ago in this area, every property that was it was for sale for $400,000 to $700,000. Any house in that range, all of the offers were $100,000 over asking price. So if I put a property on the market for my seller at $600,000, all the offers would come in at $700,000 or $710,000, $715,000, $720,000, $725,000. For the house that I put on the market at $600,000, because it's supply and demand. There wasn't enough demand, wasn't enough supply to satisfy the demand. So the buyers wanted to know, what can I do to make sure we get this house? I'll do whatever it takes. So they started to raise the price that they were offering. This is on the market for $600,000. We're going to offer you $700,000. And one house that was $600,000 here in Billerica, Massachusetts, I put in my offer for $600,000 for my buyer, and the seller agent called me and said, we actually have 15 offers on the property, and they're all $100,000 over. Every single offer is $700,000. So that was one house. So that's the way things were back then. So in those days, they came up with, buyer agrees to bring the difference in a bank certified check if the property does not appraise for sale price. That verbiage is in thousands and thousands of contracts from this area of the country. So if that happens, if the appraisal comes in for less, you sign the contract that says, yes, I'm willing to bring the difference in cash. And on that deal that I just told you about, they wound up giving me, they accepted my offer for $100,000 over asking price. And the seller agent called me and said, will your buyers bring the difference in cash, a certified check, if the property doesn't appraise? And I said, let me ask them. So I asked the buyers, this is a true story, true. I said, are you willing to bring the difference in cash if the property doesn't appraise for $700,000? So they both looked at each other and said, yeah. And I said, what happens if it only appraises for $600,000? Are you able to bring $100,000 out of your checking account? And they both looked at each other and went, and then they both turned back to me and said, yeah, we can do $100,000. I mean, I'm giggling because I don't have that kind of money laying around, but some people do. A lot of people do. So anyway, covering the appraisal gap is agreeing if the appraiser says this property is not worth what you offered for it. You have to bring whatever the difference is in a bank certified check. That's covering the appraisal gap.